Good morning. It's Rob Ryder, and today is Saturday, January 28th, 2023. This is a really important video to me. Catholics have, by the book, military solutions to abortion. And so if you are a Catholic, know a Catholic, could get another Catholic to watch the video, maybe between all the Catholics, they will understand that, my brothers and sisters, you have all this authority and power been given to the church. In the United States, it's already there. It's just not being used. And, here's a 1, 2, 3. There's a thing called the National Catholic War Council, which is created or organized, I guess it would be the proper term, in like 1917 for a particular reason, and it's never been disbanded. So it's still there. It's just not being used. Then there's the Archdiocese for Military Services, USA, which, is an archbishop in the military. He's also now the president of the USCCB. In the military, there's a thing called the Armed Forces Chaplains Board. There's a board of 5 generals, 2- and 3-star generals, or maybe 1- and 2-star. And then to top that off, so you have all this military connection. Because this thing, the National Catholic War Council, as I'll show you, right, it has a commission from the military. It's why churches have gold-fringed flags. You're in the military. I'll show you where it comes from. If you've never been told, don't worry about it. Most of the things that I could tell you, you've never been told. I went and read other books, and I'm just showing you what these things say. But the thing that ties all these together is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which says in Article 119A, right, death or injury of an unborn child. Right? It's a military crime to cause a death or injury of an unborn child. So, don't make it civilian, make it military. And then you might say, well, how do you make something, a doctor committing an abortion, military? Well, it's simple enough, right? The place he's working at has a flag. And any place that displays a flag of the United States, any public place, right, on a flagpole, or inside with a gold-fringed flag in an office, like you see in many places. You go to, if you ever been to court, there's one there, and there's certainly gold-fringed flags in churches, and not just Catholic churches. I mean, all the different Christian churches have a gold-fringed flag, so the ability to have one. And, there's a history behind why all that stuff is there, but the fact is that it is there. It's just not being used. And so, the reason I'm doing this video now is because of this video I watched yesterday. Right, pro-life priest convicted. Right, so here's a priest. Here's a priest, right? I believe he's a Franciscan, actually. That 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 policemen, a guy with a cup of coffee, and some, medical staff, watching them pull this priest out of an abortion clinic where he had been in trying to talk women out of having an abortion. And this is, the thanks he got. Well, this doesn't have to happen, right? The Catholic Church is shooting itself in the foot. And really, it's the laity's fault. So if you want to fix it, what I'm going to say, laity and, the good priests that put together the marches and so forth, you're marching around in the wrong place. Go march around the cathedral. And tell the bishop to wake his ass up, get out his handbook on the National Catholic War Council, and do what it says. And in this handbook, and we're going to look at one, because, you can download them online. Here's the handbook. It's all laid out, how this whole program was supposed to work. But in a nutshell, the archbishops created a civil organization called the National Catholic War Council. And that War Council was giving a military commission from the Department of War and Department of Navy. And the commission's still in force. Unless you can show me it's been rescinded, it's still in force. But this is why there's chaplains that, have military rank. And so I don't know that the archbishop has military rank, but I know there's, all sorts of chaplains that have military rank. And like I said, there's an Armed Forces Chaplains Board of generals. Well, all these people then, if they're in the military, they have every right to file charges. charges and specifications under Uniform Code of Military Justice. Well, not just them, though. See, if you have a gold-fringed flag, then that was a symbol of this agreement of cooperation between the military, between the military and all the government wartime agencies that were created. And so the National Catholic War Council was, down at the parish level, was supposed to represent parishioners before, like a cooperating agent with other wartime agencies, such as the Department of Treasury. So, it's a big deal. There's all this stuff tied in. If we could all just quit bickering for a little bit and look at what has been given to us and put it to use, right? You could end this problem by the end of the week. Just make it a military crime. So, I'm Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Vertluski, U.S. Army veteran, also known as Rob Ryder. My email address is courtofrecord@AOL.com, and you can find all my other videos on Rob Ryder with 3 B's on YouTube, ROBBBRYDER. All right, so let's just look at a few things, right? This is just to bring all this to somebody's attention, right? To focus it on somebody else who may be paying attention. And he says, hey, I could do something with this. I'll go file them frickin' them charges. Right? So let's do this. Hang on a second. Okay, if you're not used to my videos, you've not watched any before, they're not about me. I'm never on camera, right? But I do a lot of videos on all sorts of subjects that have something to do with, the perception that we're being shown and what's really happening. Like the devil in the details. Right? I'm down in the details, and I can show you where all the errors and omissions are in the systems that we deal with. That you would say, well, ain't that something? You never understood that before, or you never thought about it before, or whatever it might be. Simple things like, if you believe you own a house and that you got a loan with somebody, there's no bilateral contract between you and the lender. Right? You have to have a bilateral contract. It means both parties have to sign a contract. And there never was one. So there was never a loan made. And, it's true. It's, unfortunately, we're going to these courts now that have been taken over by esquires, which by definition is a crown agent. So what you think is a lawyer is really an esquire, and an esquire is a crown agent. He's working for a foreign corporation. Well, guess what? The judge is too, right? They're all part of a union of these esquires called the state bar. State bar of Michigan State Bar. I don't know which way it goes, but every state has one. And so, that system is never going to work for us. But that isn't the military. The military has its own system, and the Supreme Court has said that if you're under military jurisdiction, then you're under military jurisdiction. And to the point that if you're under military jurisdiction, you cannot be tried by the indictment of a grand jury. It has to be done under the UCMJ. Well, all these people we're trying to deal with are all under the UCMJ. It's just we don't realize it. We're taking our complaint to the wrong court. And but we as individuals don't have access to the gold-fringed flag jurisdiction. We have to go through our cooperating agents, which is the frickin' church. Or it could be other things if you have a relationship with it. But I'm just saying, it's supposed to be the church. This is it's really, really, fascinating stuff. It's unfortunate. It's so many people have been, lives have been destroyed by it. But, that's why I don't want to study this stuff just to say I know it. I want to do something with it to put an end to the evil in the world. So hang on a second. Okay, just to show, right, here's the Armed Forces Chaplains Board. If you go down here and look, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Admirals, 1-star, 2-star generals. All sit on this board. Any one of those could file charges under the UCMJ. And not just them, any chaplain, right? That's like the head of the chaplains board, right? But any chaplain that, if they have a rank, they're in the military. They can file charges under the UCMJ. So there's a simple way to, try to get some relief. And then, sure enough, we got the Roman Catholic Archdiocese for the military services. So this is a direct connection between, the Pope and the military. And he's over, he's over the whole church within the service. But I don't know that he has a military rank. I'm just saying, there's an archbishop, for gosh sakes, in the military. Timothy Broglio. And what else was it about him? Oh yeah, and he's over the USCCB, the United States. Is this going to open? Yeah, a brief history on the USCCB, right? So the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, where it says, in 1917, the bishops of the United States formed the National Catholic Work Council to enable U.S. Catholics to contribute funds, commit personnel to provide spiritual care and recreation for service members during World War I. In 1919, Pope Benedict urged the hierarchy to join him in working for peace and social justice. In response, the bishops organized the National Catholic Welfare Council. First Administrative Committee, Anyways, they ended up having to change their name. Here it is. The conference soon replaced by council. But the important thing is, they didn't say that they ever shut down the National Catholic Work Council. They just organized another one, right? They created another national organization. Well, the first one still exists. It's still there. And it was given all sorts of powers. It was given a commission by the military, by the Department of War and the Department of Navy. And, it's supposed to be a cooperating agent between all these other places with gold-fringed flags and the parishioners in that particular parish, who would take whatever their needs are, issues are, to a board at the parish level that was made up of the laity. So technically, this whole thing's supposed to be run by the laity. I'm just trying to show you that, this stuff exists. The church knows it's there. They didn't say it was ever disbanded. They just said they started something else. And eventually, the something else ended up becoming the USCCB. But because it is the USCCB, it really isn't the church, right? It's an organization of the church. Organization put together by archbishops of the Catholic Church, but it's not the Catholic Church itself. Okay, hang on again. Yeah, because before I get to this manual, this handbook, the National Catholic Work Council, which has the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to cover all these other bases real quick. So there's an Army regulation, 840-10. Right? It has to do with the flags and so forth and so on. And, you can Google online Army Regulation 840-10 and find your own copy. And if you go down to Chapter 2, where it talks about the flag of the United States, right? It's a symbol of our nation, right? So wherever the flag of the United States is, it's there because it's a symbol of our nation. It's not a freaking toy. Now, you can privately display it, but for public display, public buildings and so forth, that's all, regulated. So a flag on a flagpole, for instance, like, in front of the post office or in front of a hospital or before a court building or whatever, that's there for a reason. That's showing that the military has jurisdiction there. All right, it's the only flag that may be flown. The flag of the United States is the only flag that may be flown from a flagpole over a Conus Army installation, unless an exemption is granted. Right, so unless somebody gets an exception to fly it on a flagpole, they're part of an Army installation. And if you go down further, this is the hidden nuggets, right? So right here, national flags listed below are for indoor display and for use in ceremonies and parades. For this purpose, the flag of the United States, still the same flag, will be rayon banner cloth, heavyweight nylon, trimmed on three sides with gold and yellow fringe, 2.5 inches long. Yes, it's a decoration. Still the flag, and it's a flag to fly inside. It's got a particular purpose. Then it goes on to say what size these are. It gets to, well, now where can you display it? Right? Authorization for indoor display. The flag of the United States is authorized for indoor display for each. Then if you were to read each of these, you will soon see, well, they're all in the military. In fact, one of them is a military courtroom. See right there. I mean, that was just pointed out all by itself, military courtroom. Now you think about that, and someday go walk into a courtroom and say, well, there's a flag. This must be a military courtroom. But another place that has them is a church. And another person that has them is these people called senior executive service, which they're like the same rank as a 4-star general. This is they are Obama's hidden army, right? You have all these. There's like 5,000, 6,000 these people in the government, and they all have the rank of a 4-star general, right? But they're not in the military; they're in the executive branch somehow, right? So like I'm sure like the attorney general would be considered one, something like that. So because they're, in here, because this particular grade, this isn't GS 15 or something like, if you've been in the federal government, they have these different ratings for people. There's a particular rating called the Senior Executive Service. And them people are, subject to the UCMJ. Right? Another place, it could be in a chapel. Well, you know what? Then chapels are subject to the UCMJ because wherever you can fly the flag, it's, a symbol of the nation. And the nation's right now, the nation is under military law. It has been since the Civil War, since 1863. September 15th, 1863, Lincoln declares martial law. He had already created the Lieber Code. And in the Lieber Code, it says in Article 2 that once martial law has been declared, or once martial law has been, declared, I think it was, that it only ends with a peace treaty or a special proclamation from the commander-in-chief, neither of which ever happened after the Civil War. There was no end. The Civil War, ended in an armistice, which is a ceasefire. What's exactly the same thing that happened in World War I? They said that there's a treaty, but you can go read it. It's really easy to find. The treaty was never ratified, so there is no treaty. World War I never ended. So there's a big deal about, well, who's got the flag and why do they have it? Because we're under a military-style government. And actually, the seat of government, I'm going to have to show you this now that I said it. The seat of government of the United States is Quantico, Virginia. It's not Washington, D.C. Yeah, here's a golden nugget, right? Department of the Army, CID, Criminal Investigation Division. History of the CID. So I had gone to this site because I'm going to file a complaint with CID. In fact, I did file a complaint with CID. And I had sent this to a friend of mine, Rosita, who was looking at it too, and she sent back a little blurb that she read way down here at the end of this, in the history of all places. I mean, just beautiful. Today, the Department of Army Criminal Investigation Division headquarters is located at Quantico, Virginia. Its position in the Army organization and its location at the seat of national government, ensures that CID remains responsive to the Army's needs. Can I read that again? Today, the Department of Army Criminal Investigation Division headquarters is located at Quantico, Virginia. Its position in the Army organization and its location at the seat of national government ensures that CID remains responsive to the Army's needs. And so, I did a bunch of research here. I'm going to be doing a video on this stuff separately and something else. But, Quantico, Virginia, there's a little town called the town of Quantico, surrounded by an area called Quantico, which is district of land less than 10 by 10, right? Which would be 100 square miles, just like 89 square miles, something like that. So it's, a small enough district to be the seat of the government of the United States. And it says this is the seat of national government at Quantico. So, yeah, things are not at all like you think they are. And did you know that George Washington was visited by the Virgin Mary? It's called the George Washington's vision, right? There's you find all sorts of videos on it, and part of his vision is this, this most beautiful being he'd ever seen was telling him, son of the Republic, to look and listen, or look and learn. And part of what he looked and learned was an image something like this, with the angel with the union on his forehead, flying the standard and the sword. And 3 different woes were to come across the United States. The one he was in, the Civil War, and the one we're in now. And in the one we're in now, when the shit hits the fan, is when the legions of angels are coming to aid of the United States, according to George Washington. It was his vision, not mine, but, if you've never heard of it, you should go watch it. George Washington's vision. Okay, let's go look at this manual. Yeah. I've got, almost 2 more things. Because I'm hoping that, like I said, that most of you people haven't ever watched my videos before. So here's another big thing to know, is that the very first law ratified passed after the ratification of the Constitution, signed into law, right, by George Washington, very first law, Statute 1 of the United States, is an act to regulate the time and manner of administering certain oaths. And it says that the oath or affirmation required by the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States shall be administered in the form following, to wit, I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States. Period. That's the oath that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution. To me, that's pretty clearly written in one sentence. Well, this is the oath you take to satisfy the 6th article. So in other words, if you didn't take this oath in this form, in the form following, just as you see it, I with your full legal name and afterwards, right? That oath, no additions. Got to take a different oath. It had to be a different piece of paper, right? This is what we want to satisfy the 6th article that allows you to do something else. Because if you didn't do this one, if you don't satisfy the first law of your nation, you're not going to be able to satisfy any of them. And if you're not going to enforce the first law of your nation, no one's going to follow any. Well, guess what? There's nobody that you would say, if you read the 6th article, that's supposed to have taken an oath, that has taken it. No senators, no representatives, no state legislatures, no judges, no justices, no governors, no executive officers, no judicial officers, no dog catchers, nobody. No, you don't get to have any authority in the United States unless you take a frickin' oath. So really, there's only one group of people in the whole United States that's taken the proper oath, and that's the people in the military. Because we don't take the oath in the 6th article. Military officers aren't executive or judicial officers, they're military officers. And they have their own oath they take, and so do the enlisted. Right? And we have a record, it's on my contract. So, yeah, so if you're an attorney, if you're a Catholic attorney, you need to know when you go in that court that judge doesn't have an oath of office to be a judge. So you're not in a court of the United States, and you're not in a court of your state, and you need to quit taking clients there who believe they're going to go get justice because you're taking them to a foreign court that has nothing at all to do with the Constitution. All righty. And then this thing called the UCMJ, we should probably look a little deeper than just the title of the thing. But it says any person. Hey, I had a little technical difficulty and had to start over here. So if it's not quite lining up right in the video, it's because, I had to splice it. But anyways, I was going to talk about this subsection, Article 119A, right? Death or injury of an unborn child. Right? Any person subject to this chapter, so anybody with a gold-fringed flag, because this is military, who engages in conduct that violates any of the provisions of law listed in subsection B, and thereby causes the death of or bodily injury as defined in a particular section of Title 18 in the United States Code, to a child who is in utero at the time the conduct takes place, is guilty of a separate offense under this section, and shall, upon conviction, be punished by such punishment other than death as a court martial may direct, which shall be consistent with the punishment prescribed by the President for that conduct had the injury or death occurred to the unborn child's mother. Well, that's pretty clearly written. Right now, I said, what is this talking about? Provisions, subsection B. Let's go look at subsection B real quick. No, not there yet. I guess this is it here. Right? Subsection B. Any person subject to this chapter who has a duty for the care of a child under the age of 16, that'd be like a pediatrician who has, duty for care of children under the age of 16, and who, through design or negligence, endangers the child's mental or physical health, shall welfare be punished as court martial may direct. Okay. Well, hey, I don't need to figure it out. I'm just saying it says what it says right here. Because I see a B down here. Where did I see B? Oh, here, this is probably the B they're talking about. The provisions referred in this section A are subject to our sections 918, 919, all these, all this stuff here, all these different articles. It's like doing it to that person is like doing it to the child. Right? That conduct had that injury or death occurred to the unborn child's mother. Okay, and so what do you do then when you know that there may be something that should be reported? Well, if you want to know, again, this is easy enough to find online. If you're watching the video, you should probably download a copy of Uniform Code of Military Justice if you don't already have one, and start highlighting it the way you want to highlight it. But I'm just going to show you a couple of things that, is what it is. I'm not arguing with it. Article 30, charge and specifications, may be preferred only by a person subject to this chapter. Well, what does that mean? Well, they have to have a gold-fringed flag. Somebody with a gold-fringed flag has to go file charges against somebody else with a gold-fringed flag for, killing an unborn child. That's what we're talking about. Shall be preferred by presenting in writing, signed under oath before a commissioned officer of the armed forces who is authorized to administer oaths. So you know who that would be? It would be a priest. That's why you got the flag. When people get married and stuff, they're put under oath. All this stuff is official. Like we say, I do, right? That's like saying, like you've given testimony. And then required content. What does it need to have? Right? So a person with knowledge, or after it's been investigated, can have to set forth charge specifications. Are true and best of knowledge, belief, the signer, blah, 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 blah. Right? So that's one way it can be done, is by going to somebody that can, a commissioned officer who's authorized to take charges and specifications. But another way to do it is to, contact CID, which is something I'm trying. Right? Going to contact CID with some stuff and see if they'll pay attention to it, and have it investigated, and let the Army find out for itself that that they're right. The point is that these abortions are happening in places that got a gold-fringed flag, or at least a flag outside, and especially if they're in a hospital. And then you could go deeper and say, well, that doctor, right? He accepts federal funding, therefore he's susceptible to federal law. And these laws we're looking at, this UCMJ, while it's called Uniform Code of Military Justice, is actually part of Title 10 of the United States Code. So it's federal law, right? So, okay, I don't want to spend a little time on this because, it's just very interesting that they would have taken all this time back in the day to put this together. And it's like, well, how come we're not using it? And, it's not just the Catholic Church. This deal was given to all the churches. In fact, this is one of the reasons the Methodist building is in downtown D.C. That's right next to the Supreme Court, for God's sakes. It's in the same block of the Supreme Court. It's the only non-government building in all these government buildings in that part of the frickin', the district. And it's called the Methodist building, I think. And like all the Protestant churches have offices there and stuff. And, this was all happened at the same time after 1917. Right? Handbook of the National Catholic War Council. And so I had a few things I wanted to point out in this. So if you're interested, please keep watching. If not, well, you can see what I'm going to do. You could go read it yourself, right? But because the devil's in the details, it's always good to pay attention to what details are. And it's, for instance, look at this. Catholic Church of the United States. Okay, well, they call it that there. But down here they call it the Catholic Church in the United States. So one is of, and one is in. There's two different churches, right? Well, it turns out, as I've been reading this, says, okay, well, the Catholic Church of the United States is the church civil organizations that were created during the war and afterwards, like the National Catholic War Council thing we're talking about, or the USCCB. That's the Catholic Church of the United States, right? But the Catholic Church in the United States is the archbishops and the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. But that's really not taking into account the laity, which is the rest of us. So it's a screwed up system, done intentionally. So, I'm just saying, well, let's stop protesting these other agencies. Let's go protest the church. Right? Come on, guys, you got the firepower. Why don't you use it? Okay, let me find these particular pages. It'd take me quite some time to go through here and pull these out. So hang on. All right, shortly after the declaration of war, the loyalty of the Catholic hierarchy of the clergy and the people was pledged anew to the country, to its government, and to its supreme executive in a letter to President Wilson, drawn up by Archbishops of the United States at their annual meeting in April 1917 at the Catholic University of America. So this Cardinal Gibbons wrote the president this nice letter, and well, it doesn't have it in here. There's another book that shows, that the president accepted the offer, and that's kind of how things rolled from there. But this is the handbook that was put out after all this happened, right? So the happy result was an index of the patriotism of the Catholic body, and when the government asked the organized lay agencies should take up their share in caring for the soldiers and sailors, the Catholic body was eager to assist in the well-being of all men and women in service. Now, the other thing you may not be aware of is anybody between the ages of 17 and 60 in your state, you're part of your state's militia. And at least men in the federal government, in the United States, between 17 and 45, they're in the militia. And that's why they have to go and select a service and get a number, get a select a service number. Well, that militia has two parts. It has the unorganized militia, and it has the organized militia. The unorganized militia is just everybody that goes and gets their selective service card. But the organized militia is like the reserves, the National Guard, and then veterans who are part of the lowercase reserves. And so if you're a veteran and never heard this before, but if you watch my videos, you've heard it many times, we're still in the military. We've never been released. We don't have a discharge order. You don't have a piece of paper that says you've been released from the custody and control of the military. And if you look at your agreement, um, it's called a DD4 form, DD4 form, where you have a agreement with the Armed Forces of the United States, which says in there that you can be, kept longer than what your enlistment was. But it also says that if you're in, you still have to be paid. Okay, so these are all these little devious things that have been put into the system that allow us, right, the republic, to be overrun by this thing called the democracy. Okay, so what they decided? Well, you got to have some kind of national Catholic organization. And one of the things is that the local board should be established in the various dioceses. Right? The convention pledged the united power and combined resources of the entire Catholic body and all Catholic organizations to assist the government in every need and problem arising from the war. They placed on record their hearty approbation to the admirable regulations made by our War and Navy departments for the safeguarding of our camps, cantonments, naval and military establishments from moral dangers incident to camp life. Right? So what does that mean? Well, they gave them a commission. In November, the Archbishop of the United States constituted themselves in a National Catholic War Council and appointed as their administrative committee 4 bishops. Right, so the archbishops who, the guy that's in the military one, the military Broglio, sorry, sir, I believe it's Broglio. Right, he's an archbishop. He's part of the bodies, right, the corporate souls that created the council. And it's to direct control the aid of American, with the aid of the American hierarchy. Well, that would be the good archbishop. All Catholic activities in the war. He's like our point man in the military. Say, I'm not really, I'm not a practicing Catholic. I have my own issues with the church. And forget the deviance that we believe that, that was really put there by the Jews, or the people who call themselves Jews, the Jewish, right, to openly say that, they were proud they got over 1,100 homosexuals into seminaries in the United States. I can't remember the lady's name, right? It's one of these, ever since memes started to be a big deal, I have seen a meme numerous different times, these different statements made by people quoted, right? And she was saying it to Congress or something, right? That they were proud of the fact that they were able to, get basically 11,000 Lucifers into the church, right? Because Lucifer looks like a child of light, but he isn't. And they've been trying to destroy the church from the inside. It's not just the Catholic Church, it's all the churches. Okay, hang on again. One of the things is the Catholic Army and Navy Chaplain Bureau. Right, so this is the organization that basically supplied the chaplains to the military. Right, this is the civilian side, and the chaplain went in. He got a military rank, so he's crossed the border. He's got got power from both sides. Okay, formation of diocesan war councils. Right, because the whole idea is that hierarchical structure starts at the national, goes to the diocese, and then goes down to the parishes. Right, so the bishop of each parish will know best what answers and needs resources of his own. The head of the diocesan war council is, of course, the bishop of the diocese. So, go protest the bishop of the diocese and tell him, dude, get out your manual. Right, call the archbishop in the military and tell him to go file some charges. Or he could All right, now here's another one of these, phrases. What the plan of organization presented in this handbook for diocesan war council work is based upon the organization of the Church of the United States. The Church of the United States. The Church of the United States. Which church is that? That the Catholic Church in the United States, or the Catholic Church of the United States, or some other church? Because it doesn't say Catholic; it just says church now. So I'm not a grammar expert. I just know, well, that's not the same as what I saw before, so it's different. It's different for a reason, because the people that write this stuff, they do know grammar. These are experts that write this stuff. I may not know their whole code, but I know that they're talking code when, by how it's written. The agency is the National Catholic War Council, and this representative of every diocese is the Diocesan War Council. What's it supposed to be in every diocese? It's called the Diocesan War Council. Priest, go find out from from your bishop where the Diocesan War Council office is. And go file some charges. And really, it's not even so much that you need to go there and file charges. What you need to do is file a sworn complaint. Right? Because you have the gold-fringed flag. I don't. I can't file a sworn complaint. You have to file it. Because you have the credentials. Right? And that you could do it through the Diocesan War Council and send it up the line into the chaplain's board, and get somebody who's got the gold-fringed flag and is in the church to file some charges, or at least file a sworn statement with Army Criminal Investigation Division and say this is a violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Right? Get all the canon lawyers to work on it, and just say, dude, this is military. Quit trying to make it civilian. Quit going and protesting in front of the church or in front of the Supreme Court and that stuff. Go protest in front of the frickin' cathedral. All right. And I just want to point out that one of the things they're pointing out in this, as I was reading through it, is they're making a big deal about keeping the records of everybody who was in the church who served. And it has something to do with you having a place that you came from. Because right now we're all lost, right? We're not really citizens of the United States. We're not even technically in the Union. We may be in the territory of the United States, or we're not in the Union of the United States. We're on the wrong side of the frickin' border. We're in this area called the United States of America, which is dominion of King George III's successors, agreed to in the Treaty of Peace of 1783, where there's both the United States of America, just United States of America, and United States. They're two different entities, and United States of America is like a society of the king that's going to be allowed to be here, because not everybody, at the time of the Revolution wanted to, leave England. Right? So they're consenting to remaining under the control of the crown. Well, we've been shanghaied into that jurisdiction, and, there's a border between us and the United States. And now I can say, well, that border there's Quantico, it's over there, that's the United States, that's the seat of government for the United States. And Washington, D.C. is the seat of government for the United States of America. And I'm going to the wrong place to complain. Because, Lord knows that England is as godless as it could be right now. It's like, it used to be the holiest place in the world, but then there was a little conflict with the churches, and, look at it now. In fact, let's read this. This is, pretty good stuff. The world will never be the same after this great war. This is World War I we're talking about. This, 1918 they're writing this. For there is something more than political ideals at stake. This war is a war of Christian morality against pagan materialism, and there is a great crisis to come in the mortal world after the war is over than in political or economic world. The world is fighting its way back to Christianity and to Christian moral principles, and unless a strong public opinion in recognition of sacrifices the Catholic Church of the United States has been created. Discrimination, lack of confidence, or probably open opposition will result later. It's needless to emphasize the perfection of Catholic organizations. The parochial unit is the heart of all Catholic endeavor. Right? So the War Council was putting it all on the parochial units, which was run by the laity, to make this whole system work, and nobody even knows that it exists. But it was never taken away. They created the War Council, and then later they created another council, and that one got its name changed and became something else. But the War Council, it never went away. It's just not being used. In each parish or diocese, where practical, and the bishop so directs, a parochial war council shall be established with the pastor at the head. When thus organized, parochial war units of the diocese have it in their power, therefore, to form a strong central organization in which no single aspect of war service will be denied its legitimate place. These units should endeavor to seek out all existing forces in the parish and bring them into intelligent and sympathetic relationship so that all waste and friction and inefficiency may be avoided. Get all your attorneys in line. Right? They all got to leave the Masons. They got to give it up or leave the church. And, if you're a Mason and believe you're a Catholic, you've actually already been excommunicated. One of them papal bulls from back in the day. Right? These units should be so thoroughly in one spirit and a method that the diocesan war council may be prepared to give adequate cooperation in new problems of war, service, and reconstruction which may have to be faced when the war is over. Okay, well, the war ain't over, so, we're still in this thing you're talking about now. There may be an armistice, but, the war, if you're talking about, well, it's over because there's a treaty of peace, well, there isn't. Okay, now, this is the part where we're going to talk about all these different agencies that have been created, by the government. And, one of them being the agency or the commission that gave agency to the National Catholic War Council. So the war has mobilized every resource in the American nation. The one purpose, bringing victory to the ideas of the Allied world. No individual in this great land of ours can stand without the circle of war workers. From the moment that a state of war was declared between this country and Germany, the watchword turned from preparedness to cooperation. Individual cooperation has been accepted by the government whenever it has been found valuable, but it is the cooperation of organized bodies in the land which is best suited for the work the government has outlined as its support. The government has called first for cooperation with regard to national needs of the different churches of the land. Right, the different Protestant denominations organized under the General Wartime Commission for Federal Churches of Christ in America. The Jews, Orthodox, and Reformed under the Jewish Welfare Board of the United States Army and Navy. I wonder if the Jewish Welfare Board is still going. I bet you they didn't forget. The National Organization for War Work for the Catholic Church is the National Catholic War Council. All these are asked to cooperate with government agencies on war work. Right? All these are asked to cooperate with governmental agencies on war work. So eventually we're going to say, well, what is a governmental agency? The problems of the government are in many cases common to all, and only a common understanding can contribute to national well-being. Well, that could be like abortion. It is our duty to manifest a spirit of cooperation in national and local problems. It is our duty also to cooperate with all agencies, national war work that the government has established. Cooperate with all agencies. That means you can contact these other places with gold-fringed flags in your official capacity as a cooperating agent with a gold-fringed flag. If the parish council had been properly formed, and it can all be done today. This handbook is, 1, 2, 3, goes through everything that needs to be done. You good Catholics need to go talk to your bishop. Right? Protest in front of the cathedral. It would be impossible to give a complete description of the government agencies, but a description of the principal ones will be sufficient and able to distinct the unit of National Catholic Work Council to find best scope of its activities. Or if they're going to lead you to the places you should contact, you got a problem. Which one? Well, one is the Department of Treasury. So let's stop, right? The Department of Treasury then is a government agency. Okay, well, that's a government agency. Then most things, that you would think of in the government are government agencies. And you know what they have at the Department of Treasury? Come on. They have a flag outside on a pole. They have gold-fringed flags inside. I believe the treasurer probably has his own flag. He has his own fort. I mean, the treasurer of the United States is in charge of Fort Knox. Or at least the bullion place in the middle. He's like surrounded by a fort. The United States government provides 3 forms of financial protection for fighting forces and the families, right? And so, anyways, all these things had been set up for us to use. But to use them, we needed to go through one cooperating agent to these agencies, right? Because they don't want individuals coming. They want, right? They want the agent to come. But these 3 forms of aid, allotments, allowances, compensation for death or disability, and United States government insurance are grouped together under the War Risk Insurance Act, provided by the President on October 6, 1917, and administered under direction of the Secretary of Treasury by the Bureau of War Risk Insurance. In addition to administering the War Risk Insurance Act, the Bureau is authorized to act for men in active military service. Now, I didn't say active duty, I said active military service. Well, who's that? It's anybody in the militia. If they're saying you're in the militia, well, then you're actively in military service, even if you're in the unorganized militia. So anybody with with the selective service ID card. Under the provisions of that Soldier Sailors Relief Act approved in 1918, in the matter of lapsing or forfeiture of certain specified life insurance contracts, either in life insurance companies or fraternal orders or organizations. Right, so when you go in the military, you're given a insurance policy. Now, we think that we're out of the military because, that's what veterans. But no, you still have that policy. You're still in the military, right? It has a value. And when you die, it should go to your, whoever you choose. But in reality, you are the beneficiary of the policy. Right? Because it's made out for you. It's from the government to you. And then you decide you want to give it to, right? A third party. But it's your frickin' policy. Well, there should be a way after your active service is over to cash in your policy. Okay, this act, the benefits of the Soldier Sailors Relief Act are available only upon application. Well, ain't that something, right? You got to apply. Guess who you have to apply to? Right? You have to apply to the parish council, because that's who they put in charge of taking care of the troops, was the parish councils. The act applies only to persons in service from March 8, 1918, and persons entering active service after that date for such date of entry. Well, there you go. And so the Sailors and the Service Relief Act is still going right now. And there is in the Soldiers and Sailors Civil Relief Act, it's the number's 50 USC 4012, which has to do with a certificate of service, right? That can be gotten for somebody's service that's signed by their Secretary of the Navy, Air Force, Army, whoever it is, right? That then becomes the prima facie evidence of your service. And this particular act or section of the law says, well, here's the attributes that we're talking about. And, it's available, but you can't ever get a copy. And it says right here, right, available only upon application. So it's a big deal, that straighten out the wrongs that are in the records that keep all sorts of funding that's already been paid to people that are veterans that don't understand that at the age of 60 you get a pension from the military for your service, not from the VA, from the DOD, right from the military. And all that's going into the military retirement fund. That fund's got like $1.2 trillion of paid retirement that's never been collected by the, retiree. So why is it sitting there? How come there's so much money in that account? Do these veterans know that money's there? I mean, these retirees? Well, of course not. That's us, right? They never told us that we were going to get this. I'm just saying it's there. And so if we could crack the nut with everybody in the church on the abortion issue and prove that this avenue exists, then for me as a veteran, we can all pile in afterwards and, get our own relief. Right? They can contact the Department of War and Navy. Right? Again, if you have a gold-fringed flag, you're a cooperating agent, parish level, with the Department of the Military, highest level. Right? You got a problem, give them a call. And then they say this is the commissions on training camp activities. The twin commissions on training camp activities, one for the war and one for the Navy, which were appointed by Secretary Baker and Secretary Daniels early in the war, are charged with the responsibility of cultivating and conserving the manhood and manpower of America's fighting forces. Well, ain't that something? These commissions they're talking about, this is what today is called Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, MWR. In fact, let me show you something real quick. I just like to point these little things out. So this is Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, and it's an official Defense Department website. It doesn't say it's an official government website, United States, or whatever. They have these other things they put on there. No, this is an official Defense Department website. Well, the Department of Defense calls itself the, what is it? The fourth? Not the fourth branch. Oh, jeepers, I can't remember what that is. Fourth estate, right? They consider themselves the fourth estate. Now here, this is local, so that was the, like the overarching one. Now this is Army, MWR, and this is an official Army, Family, and MWR site. Again, it's not, attached to the government that we think of as the government. It's attached to the military. So the commission and whatever is happening is coming from the military. It's not coming from the Congress. And unless the military disbands it or does whatever, it still exists. That's why I'm saying that, that this power exists. It's still there, and we need to, find a way to reactivate it. Okay, then like the Department of Agriculture, right? Food issues. Department of Labor, got labor issues. So forth. There are all these agencies, just to show you that those are all agencies. And so that if you're trying to get relief from them agencies, you needed to go through a cooperating agent to the agency. And the cooperating agent is the local parish, war council board, or whatever the proper name is, that all comes under this creation called the National Catholic War Council. Okay, well, this has probably been long enough, so I'm going to wrap it up here in just a second. Let me make sure I have one more thing to tell you, and we'll be done. Right? Because, again, if you're tired of seeing stuff like this, right, then the only reason it's happening to you, church, is because, you lacked information And now we're going to find out if you lack initiative. Because you have the authority, you're not showing any initiative. Right? So stop protesting the wrong places. What should be happening is the military should be going in there and bringing out the doctors like that, which is what would happen if you go file the right fucking paperwork. Oh, excuse my French. Lord doesn't care. Very good. So Catholics have, by the book, military solutions to abortion. Don't let anybody tell you different, right? If you've been sitting in the pew all them years and you're a real, you're a faithful believer, then you need to believe you have the power. Don't let anybody tell you different, right? This is, because that's what will happen. I mean, like an Esquire attorney, they're a paid liar. They're really good at lying, right? And they're really good at twisting things and so forth. And so what you need to find are the foundational nuggets of information you can hold on to and say, well, yeah, but that isn't what this says, right? Because what is written is the law. Like an Army regulation, whatever that Army regulation says is the law in the Army. Now, getting that law enforced is, a different issue, but you want to know what the law is? What's written in the regulation? You violate a regulation, that's one of the many penal infractions of the UCMJ. I guess finally, just because we're here, right, in the UCMJ, if you go to the subchapter 10X, right, these are all the punitive articles. In other words, these are crimes. These are all military crimes, right? Death or injury to unborn child. Falls under manslaughter, by the way, right? Conspiracy, false official statements, false swearing, spies, espionage, aiding the enemy, public records offenses, failure to obey an order or regulation, right? That gold-fringed flag has got a regulation. Judge, you should better realize that you're violating the freaking an Army regulation if you're displaying that flag and not giving military justice where military justice is due. All offenses concerning government computers, frauds against the United States. A general article, which basically covers everything. Subordination of perjury, where somebody tricks you into perjuring yourself. Assault. Burglary. I think larceny was on here too, which somebody tries to do, larceny. And wrongful appropriation. All right, so there's plenty of other issues that could be solved that, that just ain't happening over there in the Department of Justice. If you've been paying any attention to which is the whole reason it's been shown like this for the last few years, is to get people to pay attention. The whole system of that government has been corrupted, but that is not the government of the United States. That's the government of the United States of America, the fucking democracy. Right? We're a republic. We're supposed to have a Republican form of government. Guaranteed to all the several states by the United States, and that isn't happening. And the way you can tell it's not happening is because there's no officers that took an oath to satisfy the Constitution. So they can't enforce it. The only ones that can enforce it are the military. Right? So, but the military's got a gold-fringed flag, so unless you're, in a organization that has a gold-fringed flag, you can't go to them and complain. Right? You have to have a cooperating agent. And it's supposed to be the churches. And, any more after that, well, if you got a question, call me. Well, call me, email me, and then we can talk. Right? We'll get it figured out. Okay, thanks all for watching, and God bless. Let's end the madness. Thank you. The subject of this chapter, right? So we're talking about anybody who's subject to the UCMJ, which is anybody who's got a gold-fringed flag, because that's a military flag, who engages in conduct that violates any of the provisions of law listed in subsection B, and thereby causes the death or bodily injury to a child who is hereunto, or who is in utero at the time the conduct takes place is guilty of a separate offense under this section shall be upon conviction punished by such punishment other than death as court martial may direct, which shall be consistent with the punishment prescribed by the President for that conduct, and that the injury or death occurred to the unborn child's mother. Boom. Oh, man.